Gentleman from Florida.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, of all the testimony we hear in this committee, I enjoy yours the most. You're always very interesting. We have an awful lot of academics that come in here and try and convince us that a circle is square and vice versa, and I appreciate your forthrightness. I was a little bit perplexed today by your answers to the first gentleman from Texas's questions. First about inflation, I heard you talk about you use pricing as a reference, and that purely printing more money doesn't cause inflation, which was really new news to me. And I wonder if you tell me what you think causes inflation.
Well, let's be clear what's going on. The Federal Reserve is not putting money out into the economy. What we're doing is we're creating bank reserves. That's money that the banks hold with the Fed. So it's just sitting there idly. It's not chasing any goods. Okay? So as long as those bank reserves are sitting idly, broader measures of money that measure the circulation of money.
But it won't sit there idly forever. The purpose of it is not to sit there idly forever. And while there may be a time lapse, certainly, unless that money gets sucked back in, and out of circulation, it's going to cause inflation. There's no denying it.
If it's not sucked back in, but as I was describing, we have ways of sucking it back in.
How?
Well, one way to do it is by raising the interest rate we pay on those reserves, which induces banks to keep the money with us instead of lending it out or circulating it through the economy. Another way to do it is through various open market operations that we can do that essentially pull those reserves out and bring them back into the Fed. So we do have a number of tools to do it, and we're quite aware of this issue, and we will not allow the broad measures of money circulating in the economy to rise at a rate rapid enough that would cause inflation eventually.
I'd appreciate if you could maybe give the members of this committee a little memo on a more extensive explanation of how you plan to do that without damaging the economy that we're trying to fix now.
There's a chapter in the Monetary Policy Report that covers it.
Thank you. The second question was in response to the audit of the Fed. As you well know, the statutes are this thick of exemptions to federal audit of audits of the Fed. Every agency just about can be audited. I think I heard a gentleman from Texas say once a citizen can find out more about the operations of the CIA than it can the Fed. And I don't know that I'm denying that, or that you would really want to deny that. But he's talking about, a post facto audit, not interfering with daily decision making, much like we do with many confidentiality exemptions. Where you say no, what they do now, well, they negotiate this contract as secret, but when the contract is over, it should be open up to public scrutiny. And I think really the public does have a right to know historically how we determined the monetary policy of this country, for better or for worse. I mean, don't expect it to be 100% on target all the time, but I think it's a matter of transparency. I think it's a matter of accountability, and like your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, on things outside of monetary policy, we're open and very willing to work with you. The GAO right now is doing an audit of our annual financial statement, is doing an audit of our information security controls, is doing an audit of our assistance to AIG, and many other things. So let me turn to your question.
This is the policy-making decisions, the minutes of the meetings that any government body might want to have off the record while they're making critical decisions, but eventually should be open to the public.
Well, we put out a whole transcript in 5 years, but I think that's fine. But if it's done within days or even weeks of the decision, it's going to look like the Congress is saying we disagree with that decision.
I agree with that. It shouldn't interfere with daily decision making, but I don't know how after the fact auditing and all the exemptions that are there being eliminated for a period of time, and it could say 6 months, a year afterwards, I just don't see why there shouldn't be 100% crystal clear transparency of every single function of the Fed after the fact.
Because we have to be extraordinarily careful that the markets and the public don't think that Congress is trying to influence monetary policy decisions.
If we do it in a year, in arrears, we don't know really whether the best decisions made a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago. We don't know if they're the best decisions. We don't know who the Fed picked to be winners and losers. And I think the public really has a right to know that someday.
On issues relating to our 13.3 authority, those sorts of things, where we're putting out money and lending money and so on, we can work that out. I agree with you that where we're putting out taxpayer money, there should be ways for the government the Congress to be assured that we're doing it in a safe way that is has appropriate financial controls, and so on and so on. So I agree with that part. Monetary policy is a very specific element, though, of that.
Well, but that's the most critical.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman